I was not thinking anything green this morning. I
St. Patrick's.
didn't cross my mind at all. So
This meeting is being recorded.
the only thing I have is a green book here.
Well, we're all work. You seem to be at work actually, so I think the rules are someone is legally allowed to pinch you if they notice you are not wearing green of any
Ah, see, I do.
kind.
Hard to do during the COVID time.
Right. Anyways, well, I think we'll get started in a minute. Do you have anyone else that is participating on behalf of the city?
No, it'll just be me presenting from the city. Sarah's not here. Lisa Felix from our city manager's office has graciously um, um, uh, found time to help us. So thank you, Lisa. We do have another person that has logged in. I am not sure who they are. It just says owner. Um, if they want to identify themselves, that would be great.
Okay, and then I know someone from.
Are you speaking of me? I'm not sure if you're hearing me.
Yes, we can hear you. Who might this
Uh,
be?
my name is Jim Till. I'm the president of North Whidbey Sportsmen's Association.
President.
Okay.
And were you interested in testifying today, Mr. Till?
Yeah, there is a comment I'd like to make because I'm not sure if it's been considered.
Okay, well, there will be a point during the hearing where you'll have that opportunity, and I'll make sure to call on you when we get to that point in the hearing. And prior to that, we'll keep you muted. Okay, Mr. Till?
Okay, sure.
And then Sandy Nguyen, who joined us with my staff. So we do not need to call on or hear from her, but she just wanted to sort of see what the process looks like. So I
That's good.
think looks like we are recording, so I can go ahead. I'll get my gavel out and we'll get started. And here we go. And good morning. I'm going to go ahead and call it, or afternoon, my apologies. Good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and call this session of the City of Oak Harbor Hearing Examiner to order. For the record, today is March 17th, 2021 at 2 p.m. We have one item on the agenda today. This is and someone's shuffling papers. If we can just mute everyone but me for the moment, make sure that. Great. Okay, so the item on the agenda today is a request to rezone 75 acres of land on two parcels at the terminus of Gun Club Road from the Planned Industrial Park or PIP zoning district to the Public Facilities or PF zoning district to match a recent change in the land use designation for the property under the city's comprehensive plan, which changed its designation, land use designation from industrial to public facilities. My name is Andrew Reeves. I'm a hearing examiner with Sound Law Center, who the city has selected to hold certain land use application hearings like this one. And today it will be my role to collect evidence in the form of exhibits and testimony to determine whether this proposal satisfies the requirements for a site-specific rezone under section 1975-030 of the Oak Harbor Municipal Code. To that end, I received just a couple exhibits in advance of the hearing today, and we'll talk more about that. But one is a staff report prepared by city staff, and the other was, I believe, the current zoning map. So I've considered those exhibits. In addition, I will take testimony from those members of staff that have information that they feel that myself and members of the public should be aware of. And then if members of the public are interested in testifying in advance of the hearing, we have heard from one Mr. Jim Till, who was interested and is interested in testifying. We'll go ahead and hear that testimony. And if appropriate at the end, I'll turn it back to staff to respond to any such testimony. The city is the applicant in this instance, which is always a little strange, but we will make sure everyone's wearing the right hats and that we get all the appropriate information we need so that within 10 business days of the record closing, I'm able to produce a recommendation on this proposal, which will then be forwarded to the council, and ultimately it will be the council's job to make the final decision on this proposal. but they'll do so in a closed record situation, considering the evidence that I considered in my ultimate recommendation that I produce. So that's the basic order we're going to follow. All testimony will be under oath or affirmation, and I may ask, and often do ask, questions of those that testifying. I'm not trying to trip anyone up. I'm just trying to ensure I have a thorough understanding of the proposals so that I can produce a recommendation in a timely manner that hopefully is clear and makes sense, so that the council can ultimately move forward one way or the other on the proposal. So I think those are the basics. I thank everyone. We're obviously still in the midst of the pandemic, and we're doing this using remote meeting technology. And it's St. Patrick's Day. I pointed out before we got on the record, I am having an abhorrent lack of green, but I put my Washington Parks green polo in the background from a past life, so that I have green at least somewhere on my screen. So with that, I'm going to turn it to our planning staff member, Senior Planner Kaczmarek, and we'll get him sworn in. Mr. Kaczmarek, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I do.
Great. Thank you for being here, sir. And I do have questions ultimately, but for now, if you had any sort of presentation or opening remarks you wanted to make, and then we can get into some of the questions that I had.
Absolutely. Happy to just give a short, brief presentation just to support the report that I provided to the hearing examiner. This is a property that the city has been looking at for quite some time to develop as a park. There were several steps to go through before we could take something on like that. And so the first step was to do a land use change at the comprehensive plan level. This was done in 2020 after a process to go through the comprehensive plan docket approval and amendment process. So in 2020, the city considered the land use change and put it in front of city council, and the city council amended the future land use map and changed it from planned business park to from industrial to public facilities. So we have 7 land use categories. Industrial translates to 3 zoning categories in our zoning ordinance. It transfers to PIP, Planned Industrial Park, Planned Business Park, PBP, and industrial. Those are the 3 zoning classifications that implement our industrial land use designation. And then the parks are implemented by the public facilities land use category. So the city council changed the land use designation from industrial to public facilities. And so this step is to further implement that idea. And so it needs to be changed in zoning to reflect the land use category. And so this rezoning is to align all of those ideas and plans. The rezoning meets the criteria that's established in the Oak Harbor Municipal Code. The criteria have been presented to the hearing examiner. And so we recommend that the hearing examiner hold a hearing, collect public testimony, and take action on the rezoning. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Sorry, and in terms of mute and unmute, we'll leave me unmuted the whole time so that I can jump in as needed. But in terms of just the current zoning, the zoning map that was provided as an exhibit would seem to indicate that this is planned business park as opposed to planned industrial park. But I think the staff report had said that it's currently planned industrial park. Could you clarify that for me, Mr. Kaczmarek?
I can, and I am going to, and the error is probably in my report.
Okay.
Let me share my the zoning map that I have in the exhibit, just for the record. So this is the zoning map and the current zoning classifications. And the zoning classification indicates that it's a planned business park. So my report is probably in error. So I'd like to note that.
Okay, so it's planned business park, and then that corner, that top corner, which is public facility, is that part of this proposal, or is that a separate property?
That has already been changed to public facilities because of the existing water tower, the city's water tower. The lines are not lined up because it's just the difference between the GIS layers and the zoning map. Our zoning map is not on a GIS map, so when we overlay some of these, they don't line up. But that PF box is 5 acres basically of the current water tower property, and it is already designated for public facilities and not part of this rezone.
Okay, so there are two properties that are part of this, and they are currently planned business park, and the city is requesting a change to public facility. That's the gist of it, correct?
That is correct. So the two properties are this on the map, 40 acres here and about 35 acres in this L shape. So those are the two parcels.
Okay, and then that little white sort of rectangle, you think there's a discrepancy, GIS related, but not on the ground. Essentially, there's not going to be a strange L-shaped strip of property that remains PBP. It's this entire two chunks of, essentially 80 acres, it looks like would be all public facility if this went through. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay, got it. So I think that part makes sense. So thank you for clarifying. And you did go through the criteria in the staff report. I may have some questions on that in a sec, but I just wanted to clarify on the exhibits. So right now I have a staff report, and this was proposed as Exhibit A. What I would suggest is, why don't we make the staff report Exhibit 1? We'll make the zoning map Exhibit 2. And then there's a couple other things I was hoping we could get actual exhibits into the record after the close of the hearing today. One would be the actual current comp plan map, the land use designation map. I would like to make Exhibit 3, because then that'll show that the current comprehensive plan is, as you state in your report, there's been a change so that land use designation on the comp plan map is for public facilities. Does that make sense, Mr. Smack?
Absolutely. I can forward a copy of the latest land use map to you after the meeting.
Sure. And then in terms of notice, your staff report explains that public notice was done in accordance with the requirements of the municipal code. And this included site posting, letters to property owners within 300 feet, and publishing. This is, again, one of the very first of these hearings we've done. Yeah, I believe in the past we did send city staff an example of the sort of affidavit of notice document that we like to use. If not, I'll make sure we do send that. But essentially, it's a document that whoever prepared the notice signs off on and says, this is the date that it was published, et cetera, the date it was posted. And I'd like to make that Exhibit 4 so that we have those notice materials clear in the record.
Absolutely. We'll get you a copy of that as well.
And then I know this is a city project, but was there an actual application that someone at the city produced, Mr. Kmack, or?
Yes, there is. And we will give you a copy of that application as well.
Okay, so why don't we make the application Exhibit 5, So I've got staff report as 1, zoning map as 2, comp plan map as 3, the notice materials, we'll call them exhibit 4, the application itself is exhibit 5. And then I think that then would take care of the sort of documents, exhibits that I think would be appropriate. And you can verify for me, Mr. Kamak, that no written comments were received by members of the public or reviewing departments and agencies. Is that accurate?
As I could, we did not receive any direct comments to the rezoning. Now, there is a different process going on in terms of selecting a concept for the site. So there are some public comments being generated as part of that, but specifically to the rezoning, we have not received any comments.
Right. So just to be clear, all we're trying to address today is changing what's allowed on the property. You know, it's going from this public business park zone. It would go from, you know, those types of uses to then the types of uses allowed were it to be zoned public facilities. Clearly, the city has an idea in mind to make this a park, but that's sort of beyond what I'm trying to address in any recommendation I'm making. Ultimately, I'm just saying, based on the criteria, there are 6 criteria in section 1975-030 of the code. It's appropriate to change the zoning from the public business park to public facilities. So I'm not dealing with anything specific about park concepts. It's just a more general sort of flyover view of this particular property. Am I understanding that accurately?
That is accurate, and thanks for the distinction, because I did want to make the distinction on the comments as well.
Sure. And then my final question has to do with our State Environmental Policy Act. There was no specific information in the staff report, but did city staff determine that this proposal is exempt from review under SEPA? And if so, could you speak to that briefly, Mr. Kamak?
Absolutely. So we, as a city, through this entire process, did a SEPA checklist for the land use change at the comprehensive plan level. So that SEPA addresses some of the impacts from a large property standpoint in terms of a land use change. The rezoning can be covered technically under that SEPA that was done under the land use change. But however, staff is hoping to do a SEPA checklist for the phase 1 of the project. So there will be subsequent SEPA checklists that will accompany this project and future phases. So we feel like the land use has captured the larger environmental impacts, if you will, from a land use change. And then the phases will pick up project-specific SEPA. So the rezoning itself does not require a SEPA. It will not provide any additional information other than outside of what the land use SEPA or the project level SEPA can provide.
Okay, so the city determined, so often in SEPA, we think in terms of, exemptions, and they are typically found in Washington Administrative Code 197.11.800. There is a specific provision about rezones, the caveat being there are 3 sort of things that need to happen for a rezone to automatically be exempt. One is that you're within an urban growth area. This, by chance, is this within a UGA? I didn't know the answer to that.
Yes, it is within a UGA.
Okay, so we're within a UGA, and then the applicable comprehensive plan was already subject to environmental review, as you just discussed. And the rezone would not require an amendment to the comprehensive plan because that already occurred, correct?
Correct.
Excellent. So in my decision, I can actually say that under WAC 197.11.806, A and C, this property is exempt from any requirements under SEPA. But just for the thoroughness of the record, if you could include that SEPA checklist and any SEPA determination as Exhibit 6, I think that would be useful to keep on hand in terms of ensuring we have a thorough record. Is that correct?
We can do that as well. We can provide the SEPA checklist for the land use change that went with the comprehensive plan amendment.
Excellent. Okay, well then I think final question. Does the city own the land already?
It does. The city owns the land.
City owns the land, and I don't need the title. You affirming that for me on the record is enough for me. I hate reading title reports, so I see no need in me having another one that I would have to read. That's something better suited for accountants than attorneys. So I think that covers that. I think those are the questions then I had for you, Mr. Kamak. Again, you've detailed why the city believes the criteria for the rezone have been met in the staff report, and I thank you. I didn't have any questions specific to that. Were there other members of staff that you were planning on calling on to testify before we see if there are members of the public?
Not at this time, unless the hearing examiner has specific questions for them. We don't have additional information.
I think Mr. Oborn there is.
Yeah, I'll just.
I'm going to swear you in, Mr. Oborn. Do you swear for him to tell the truth in any testimony you give here today?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And if you can introduce yourself for the record.
I'm Blaine Oborn, Oak Harbor City Administrator. CAC is the staff member handling this, but I'm here for support and asking any follow-up questions that CAC may need assistance on.
Okay. Did you have any specific information you wanted to provide?
I was pretty involved in the purchase of this property and negotiation, so I was very directly involved in that. So I certainly could add to the attestation that we own the property and acquired it, I think January of previous year. So we've owned it for some time. Went through the comprehensive plan process, and also very integral in working with staff on this area, and also on the doing the concept master plan and working with engineering and the various parks and the various staff that are coordinating. Really a team effort here in a lot of different areas of the city that are focusing on this project and coming to play to make this come to fruition. So just a major project, and it's pretty exciting, and certainly zoning is one of the areas that we need to go through to continue with this project.
Great. Well, yeah, it is how lovely that Oak Harbor has 75 acres it can convert into a park. Being in Tacoma, I don't think we have more than about 4 acres that are not already built up. So that's great to hear. So thank you for being here. I don't have any specific questions for you. I think what we'll do at this point is we'll turn it over to members of the public that are interested in testifying. And checking here, it looks like I think Mr. Jim Till is the only other person that is not affiliated either with the city or my office. So if we can unmute Mr. Till, you'll also have to unmute yourself. But can you hear me?
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm going to get you
Okay.
sworn in, Mr. Till. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I do.
Thank you. And can you just clearly spell your name for the record?
My last name is spelled T-I-L-L.
Easy
Jim,
enough.
or James is my proper name, but I usually go by Jim.
We're fine with Jim. Thank you for being here, Mr. Till. And you had said at the outset you are the president of the North Whidbey Sportsmen Association. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Well, now is your opportunity to provide any testimony you would like in relation to this proposal.
Well, the one thing that I was wondering, and I don't know if it's been considered or not, but the growlers fly over that specific area very frequently, particularly when they're doing their carrier landing practice. There'll be one after another, and they're so close and so low that you could not carry on a conversation. When I'm out there they're flying, I wear hearing protection because it is so loud. And I don't know how that will affect any sport activity going on in the park.
Got it. So you were wondering about, and I missed the word. It was an aircraft of some kind. Was it a Growler?
The Navy's F-18 Growler.
F-18 Growler. Okay, sorry, I just missed what the word was, but I am familiar with the aircraft. So, what happens, or has any consideration been given to the fact that this is a sort of flyover area for the Navy, and any impacts that might have on the park? Was that the
Yeah,
basic?
and because that doesn't bother us too much on the range because most people are wearing hearing protection anyway. But even when there's no shooting going on and the planes are flying, I wear hearing protection because it's so loud.
Got it. Well, and then I guess theoretically there's some noise on the adjacent property from the gun club as well, one would imagine.
Yeah, but that's minimal next to the growlers.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Did you have any other comments you wanted to share, Mr. Till?
No, that was it.
Great. Well, thank you.
Well, there is, we're going to launch a kind of a public information campaign as the time draws near to make sure that there's no one over on the sports park that it has a concern with the gunfire because we shoot in a completely different direction from the park. But I don't know if all the public knows that. So I wouldn't want a soccer mom over there hearing gunfire and afraid that there's bullets flying overhead.
Gotcha.
So we're going to launch a campaign and maybe even hold an open house so people can see what our facility is and the direction of gunfire and that sort of thing.
Excellent. Yeah, I assume over time some work and some coordination between your organization and the city will be appropriate, but obviously your organization is the senior user. You've been there. There's no indication or plan that having the park in the vicinity would have any detrimental impact to the way your organization works. Again, you've been there longer. You know, by putting in a park, it doesn't mean the city can shut down the gun club.
Yeah.
So that's clear on the record. It didn't seem that you were concerned. I have dealt with these situations in the past, and I think it's important to be clear on the record how these things work. So
okay, good.
That then sum up your comments today, Mr. Till.
That's it. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for being here and participating. At this point, I'll turn it back to Mr. Kamak and then Mr. Omorn to see if they had any thoughts, if the city's given any consideration to the presence of the F-18 Growlers and the sort of noise issues related to a potential park in this facility. So, Mr. Kamak, if the city has thought about this at all, then now would be an opportunity to weigh in.
Absolutely, and that's one of the issues that was covered in the SEPA when we did the land use, is to consider that the property is in proximity to these noise contours. And I'm going to share the zoning map of Oak Harbor, current zoning map of Oak Harbor, to show where the noise contours are. So let me quickly share my screen here. Do you see the zoning map?
I do.
Okay. So and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And does that work? Can you see the map zoomed in?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the property that we're looking at for rezoning. This is the zoning map. So all these properties are outside the city. The dotted line is the UGA. So all of this area is within the city's UGA, but outside the city limits at this time. The noise contours and the accident potential zones are shown here. The accident potential zones are in red. And as you can see, as Mr. Till pointed out, that the aircraft pathways are definitely close to this property, but they're not directly over it. It shows the accident potential zones as mapped by the ACUS study. This dotted line here is the noise contours that are existing currently, the different zones. And as you can see, this property is just south of the high noise district zone C. It lies within the noise subdistrict B. And so given all these considerations, the city did contact the Navy and ask them about their thoughts on locating a park in this area. And from our existing regulations and from the ACU study, it appears that this noise zone can accommodate a park. However, we do think that the noise is something of a factor to take into consideration while designing the park. And so some of our SEPA mitigations is to try and provide as much tree cover as possible when you can to mitigate for those, to locate more open facilities further south of the property. So these are some of the things that have come from the overall land use SEPA that was taken into account before any concepts or anything could be discussed from an environmental standpoint. So yes, the city is aware of the noise issues, have discussed with the Navy in terms of their thoughts on it. So something just for information's sake, this is outside of the rezoning, but this is something that the city is talking to the Navy about. So one of the reasons why these APZs are the way they are, or the noise contours, is because there are some very sensitive uses on the base that makes the planes take a wider circle for these routes. Mainly, there's a hospital and there's a school in this area that kind of forces the planes to take a little wider circle. We are in the understanding that the Navy is trying to relocate some of those facilities from the base to a different location, move it out to Crescent Harbor or some other location. They're actively working on that, primarily because then it will alter some of these noise contours in these APZ zones and have the impact more north of here and reduce the impact. So in combination with the fact that we are in an allowed, in a noise zone that can accommodate this use, and with the combined fact that there is some other work to move some sensitive facilities and mitigate for these noises and impacts, is what kind of led to the land use change to be considered to accommodate this use. So that's kind of the background information related to noise contours and the impact on the base.
Sure. And this is a specific, is this an additional map to the zoning map that was provided that has metadata on noise contours, or is this all part of the same zoning map that was already provided?
So the zoning map that was included in the packet has slightly different colors. I pulled up a overall zoning map that shows the entire city. As you can see, the one that was generated for the report has the aerial photograph and so on with the GIS layer mapped onto it. So that is just it's the same map.
Got it.
But it's just prepared a little differently using our GIS layers for the report. So that looks a little different, but they are the same map.
Okay, so it theoretically Exhibit 2, which is the zoning map or maps, however we think about it, this information is available for me if I wanted to look at it again.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay. So thank you for explaining that, but the basic idea is the city has thought about this as part of the SEPA review that occurred in terms of changing the comprehensive plan designation. Environmental noise was considered. The city's in discussion with the Navy, and then further information that you just provided, the Navy has considered moving some of its more sensitive facilities to different locations so that that'll sort of change the flight path, theoretically moving some of that noise further north, which the city obviously has an interest in with the UGA being set up where it is. So it is something that is actively being considered. And then obviously site-specific details of any park are further down the road, may or may not involve a hearing before me. I have no idea. Likely not. I don't believe it would be required unless there's critical areas or something. But there will certainly be public involvement for any actual park design that is approved. But the thinking is something like ball fields might be located further to the south, and then more tree cover to the north to theoretically try to mitigate some of the flyover impacts from the Navy. Is that the basic idea, Mr. Kamak?
Yes, that is the basic idea. There are some of our initial reconnaissance of the property indicates that there are some wetlands to the northern edge of the property, and so some of those areas will be retained, hopefully in more natural areas as far as possible to kind of mitigate for that.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you. And then, Mr. Oborn, you can, if you had further thoughts, you're welcome to share them. If not, no worries. I just wanted to give you the opportunity.
Thank you. I think CAC did a good job of talking to the noise issue. I could speak to the other question regarding the shooting noise, or CAC, you can run with that either way.
Oh, go ahead.
When you're ready to, are we ready to go into that second response, or yeah? Yeah, but the second response is my understanding is there's other regional parks out there. Talking to people who do sports that are next to gun clubs, they're very compatible together. I appreciate the North Whidbey Sports Association being here today and representing them. Certainly, we want to do outreach so that people know that we're near a gun club. So when they hear that kind of shooting, then they know that it's okay and it's next door to it. But I think council was fully aware that they were there. We continue to, they've been there before us, and we continue to encourage them to continue to operate, and we will continue to work with them. We will start working with them and let people know that that gun club is there and that you'll hear these shots fired. And we think that we can still be compatible with them, even though we're next to them. So, and CAC, you have anything else to add in that?
And no, I concur with the existing uses being compatible. I don't think they're going to be contradicting each other in terms of intensity level and things like that. So we don't see an issue with that.
Great. Okay. Well, then I think based on that, I have all the information I need to ultimately make a decision on this proposal, and I will do so here in the next 10 working days. That said, my office will work with city staff to get those additional exhibits we discussed today and make sure we get all that, but that won't impact the 10 business day deadline. So I will make sure that the city receives my decision in the next, my recommendation in the next 10 working days. And then for Mr. Till and others that may be interested, Mr. Kamak, once my recommendation is made here in the next 10 working days, is the thinking this goes to the council at their next meeting? And do we happen to know what date that might be in case folks are interested in participating at that meeting? If you know, sir. If not, it's fine.
No, we don't. And actually, there is some further discussion on how that's going to happen. I'm not sure if this is the venue to talk about it, but we will discuss that further. We don't have a date set for anything like that. We do have some concepts that are moving forward to the city council, and don't want to confuse that with the rezoning. But there are also some procedural things that we need to talk about, again, maybe outside of this meeting in terms of rezoning.
Sure. Okay. So I will produce a recommendation in the next 10 working days. And if members of the public want a copy of that, is there a way that they can get a copy of that if they participated? For instance, Mr. Till, if he'd like a copy, can he just email someone on city staff, or will he be provided a copy if he gives us our email? How would that work, Mr. Mack?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
We got, hold on one sec, Mr. Till. CAC, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Okay. So yes, we'll be happy to provide that information, copy of the decision. If they are interested, they can email. Sarah is not here with us today. She usually manages the meeting. But if they want to send, Mr. Till, if you want to send me your email, catcamac@oakharbor.org is my email. If you want to send me your email, we'll be happy to get you a decision.
All right.
CAC, your email is ccamac.
Oh, CCAMAC. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it.
And Mr. Kamac's email, as well as the clerk to the hearing examiner, Sarah Heller. She's sort of jack of all trades there at the city for administrative. Thank you to Lisa Felix, by the way, for helping today. But normally, Sarah, those emails are available on the city's website. So if you would like a copy of the decision, it won't be hard to get, and we'll make sure that you get that, Mr. Till. So I think with that, we can go ahead and end today's hearing. I thank everyone for taking the time to participate in the process. I wish everyone a happy, very happy St. Patrick's Day. Be safe out there. And with that, we'll end today's meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Mr. Reeves, I just wanted to let you know, I don't know if you care or not for your notes, but the Navy's planes are EA-18G, not F-18.
EA-18G planes. All right.
Yeah, so it's EA-18G.
Okay.
And they're
Thank
called the
you.
Growlers.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. I think that's it. And I'll email, and my office will email city staff, but so we can get a copy of today's the audio from the hearing and ensure that we get all the exhibits. But is Sarah coming back? Should we email Sarah? Is that the right person to ask?
Sarah should be back with us. She's just out today, and she should be back tomorrow. So Sarah would be the person. She's our coordinator. She'll get communication. I will coordinate getting the exhibits to you that we talked about, as well. Coordinated with Sarah to get that to you.
Excellent. Okay. I think we're all set then. Thanks, everybody.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.